Just a couple of notes. We were talking earlier with John McWethy at the Pentagon about the launch of cruise missiles. The attack on Baghdad that has come tonight, and we have seen sporadic fire and explosions over Baghdad, and we have seen some ministry buildings on fire there. We understand that these cruise missiles launched today, so far tonight, and again it is just before midnight over there, that they were launched by 3 U.S. vessels and 2 British vessels. All of the cruise missiles that were launched last night came from 6 American ships in the Persian Gulf and in the Red Sea. There were no British ships involved, but today we are told that British ships were involved in the launching of the cruise missiles that have come down on Baghdad tonight. We're going to go now to Mike Van Fremd, who is joining us in Kuwait City, who has had can give us some sense of what has been going on there. It was early in the day that the sirens were sounding almost continuously in Kuwait City, and so many people there were having to head for shelter and put on the gas masks. And Mike, have things been quiet once the darkness has come in Kuwait City?
They've been very fortunate, Charlie. For about the past 5 hours, we have not had any more siren sound. Now, there had been 6 alarms that had gone off during the day, and it really was very unnerving. Now, there is one thing that's been going on tonight. The Crown Prince, I don't know whether the camera can capture it, but it's a enormous building in back of me, has been meeting with the cabinet. They've been trying to discuss what to do now. They had really thought that Kuwait City was going to be pretty safe through all this, with the tremendous patriots to the north, the enormous number of troops, U.S. and British troops. They didn't think this was going to happen. So far, what they've decided to do isn't much. Basically, they're going to cancel school beginning on Saturday for a week. Of course, tomorrow, Friday, is a Muslim holy day. Saturday's when school starts. It's going to stop for a week. During the day, it really began to become frantic here sometime afternoon, Charlie. That was about 3 a.m. New York time. It was when the Kuwaiti Defense Ministry first said that there had been 2 missiles from Iraq that had landed on Kuwaiti soil. It was after that we began to get those sirens, and journalists were frantically throwing on their gas masks. They were getting into shelters. Traffic stopped here, and it was really unnerving because it would go one after the other. We had a total of 6 of them. One interesting thing that I was able to see from my vantage point, but we weren't able to catch many pictures of, the Czechs have a very sophisticated number of armored personnel carriers that travel around the city that can basically sniff out and detect whether there's any chemical or biological agents. We met with some of these specialists, and they are people that are wearing gas masks. They have special suits. They have special tanks, and they can find anything that's in the air. It's extremely sensitive equipment, and the Czechs learned their trade during the days when they were part of the old Soviet Union. They had great expertise in dealing with that, and they are now going throughout the city, and it's sort of an unnerving sight in and of itself, because when you see one of these armored personnel carriers come into a residential neighborhood in Kuwait to basically sniff out whether there's chemical or biological agents, it makes people very frightened here. Another thing that did happen, the city of Kuwait has 800,000 Kuwaitis and about 2 million foreign workers. Many of them wanted to go to the telephone and make calls, and also, Charlie, all the journalists here were frantically getting on the phone, and the phone system then crashed, so it made matters a little bit more worse in an unnerving day. But the bottom line of all this is that the missiles that came in there was no damage. It really didn't amount to much, but psychologically for this city that thought really not much was going to happen, it has been a very unnerving day.
Well, a couple of things. As I look at those pictures that we were seeing of people putting on gas masks, I must say I recognize where those pictures were shot, and I even recognize some of the faces behind the gas masks. Those are ABC staffers who are at the offices that we have there in Kuwait City. But Mike, as I watched the pictures from Kuwait City today, I was struck by the fact that people were heading for the shelters, and then as soon as the all-clear sign, as I saw pictures from Kuwait City, people were just heading back out on the street. Car traffic was going as normal. Sirens would go off again. Everybody would stop, and then it just it resumed as if it was people were pausing for this announcement from the sirens, and then coming right back out.
I guess they took it in stride, although I would differ with you just a little bit, Charlie. The traffic seemed a bit lighter today. It seemed that once it happened, many of the workers, I mean, this is a pretty bustling little area. You were here just a little while ago. These streets today wasn't much going on. I'll tell you what it reminded me a lot of, though. It reminded me of Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, some 12 years ago. And the way the pattern went then was the very first day that you began to get these sirens go off, people would put on their entire suits, they would put on their masks, they'd go to the shelter.